All right, we're gonna start. I just had to do something real quick. All right, here we go. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. I started this meetup because when I was in the military, no one in my circles talked about real estate. A lot of times we talk about debt, other finances, but nothing about real estate. And I want to start a meetup where people can learn about real estate and build generational wealth for them and their families. I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker today, good friend, Mrs. Angel Williams. What's up, Angel?
Nothing much. Excited to talk.
Yeah. So I can't wait to dig in. You already know what we want to talk about. I always ask everybody this first question always. So Dawn, take notes. One day you're gonna be a speaker on here. So just remember this. How did you get started in real estate?
So it wasn't even really anything I thought about. My grandparents invested in real estate, and then Jason's parents invested in real estate. And so when we bought our first house, I seriously don't even remember us talking about it. We just one day were discussing, okay, we need to get the make ready. We need to find out who our property manager is going to be. But I don't really remember us saying, hey, this is going to be our first rental. We just knew. So having both grown up in families that invested in real estate, we saw all the ups and downs. Our first renter was not good. It was a rent dodge in the middle of the night, left all their stuff behind. Actually, I really think another S word is appropriate, but they left all their stuff behind and we had to deal with that. But where a lot of people would have had that experience and just turned and ran, we'd seen the ups and downs. So we just stuck it out and started making that residential slow roll where single families are coming, maybe once every couple of years. And we got up to I guess we were up to 3 or 4. And then, we had our son in 2010. He has a rare disease. We didn't know that until he was 19 months old. And the bills didn't really get all that out of control until we started doing ABA. ABA is incredibly expensive, like 6 figures a year. And we realized that even with insurance, we were going to have to be able to keep up with those costs. And like I said before, residential is a slow roll. It's all yours, but it's very, very difficult to scale in that model. And Jason had been looking for something that we could do that was more scalable. His father had done residential multifamily, so that's your 2, 3, 4s, and was quite successful with it. So we did consider that. And then in 2017, we went to an event in Grapevine, and it was the Memphis Invest, which is a turnkey, or at that point in time, it was a turnkey residential program where you get in with them, you use your retirement funds a lot of times, you get into these turnkey houses. But one of the speakers there was Joe Fairless. And so that was kind of our first foray into seeing someone actually speak about the multifamily model and how much easier it is to scale. And that was we knew we were going that direction, but that's kind of when the fire started. And so that was how we wound up getting into multifamily.
What a story. Inspired by family and then past experiences too, to get to where you're at. And I think that's wonderful. Before we go forward with your story, what would you say to somebody who might not have that background of somebody who, family never been into real estate and things like that? What would be the first things you would want them to do to get into multifamily real estate?
I do know people that have started very first in multifamily. I don't know how successful I would have been if that had been my first place to start. Residential to me is a really easy place to start because you don't really have to have a team. You can do it on your own. You can qualify on your own. If something goes wrong, guess what? You're the only one that has to deal with that mistake, right? So from personal, I like the residential side. And then after doing commercial multifamily, residential is like a walk in the park. It seems so easy now. And I remember when I used to think it was not necessarily hard, but a little tough. And now I'm just like, That is so easy because the multifamily stuff it's not just adding zeros. I know we hear that all the time. Oh, it's just adding zeros. It's just adding zeros, but it's not. A multifamily property is not a bunch of singles under one roof. There's a lot of moving parts, and you need to have people on your team that can deal with those moving parts. So, yeah, my personal thought is start with something easier and something you can be comfortable with and feel good about, and get some progress in before you move into something that could be a complete and total beatdown.
We're going to get into that beatdown in a minute. So, okay, so you met Joe Fairless. Let's go along the story. So what was next after you met Joe Fairless? What was the next steps along the line? This is before the deal, of course.
What's that?
This is before your deal. So
Yeah, no. This is way before the deal.
Okay.
So funny enough, in my mind, it was really before I got comfortable with coaching and the idea of having a coach and having a mentor. I was like, oh, that's a lot. We can't afford that. We can't do that. And so we wound up trying something different. And we were in the other program for like a year and a half and just floundered. And so my first word of advice to anyone I talk to is when you find someone that you know you want to coach with and you want them to be your mentor and you want to be in their program, suck it up, figure out what you got to do and just make it work. If you got to beg that person for a payment plan, you do whatever it takes, because ultimately what happened to us is I cost us $30,000 and a year and a half of time. And that 30,000 is minuscule when compared to the year and a half that we lost. Where would we be if we had gotten our first active side deal across the line a year and a half ago? I wouldn't have been sitting here freaking out when my son lost his insurance this past February. I promise you that. So that was the real cost of it.
So not to get into all the weeds with it, because I don't definitely want to get into that. But what was the lessons learned with this, losing $30,000? Of course, like you said, time, you never get time back, but what was your biggest lesson learned from that?
Really, it's when it's a gut feeling, when you have found the person that you are meant to, when you find the person that's meant to be your coach, it. And I would just say that you do whatever it takes to go ahead and start now. If that means bootstrapping, if it means selling some clothes, selling some furniture, downsizing, whatever it takes, because a year and a half is a lot of time to lose. And so you don't want to jeopardize the time just because the cost sucks a little bit. And you're going to hit a point where you have tripled, quadrupled, 10x what you spent, and you're going to look back on it and think how foolish you were. I know I have. So that's 2017. We finally got in with Joe in 2019, and we got into some passive deals. I guess 2018 we got into some passive deals, and then we got our first active side deal across the line in December of 21.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you open it up now. Let's talk about that deal. And what was, because we both have talked about this deal many, many times. What attracted you to this deal, and what was the pitfalls that really got you, now that second deal was so much easier. So what was the pitfalls for that first deal?
Well, the reason we chose it is because it's like 15 minutes from our house. What were some of the pitfalls? It was a small balance loan in a very small market. And those are the terms you want to know. Small balance loans are more difficult than larger balance loans. So it's easier to get a $10 million loan than it is to get a $5 million loan. As backwards as that sounds. Beyond that, like if it were DFW, or if it were something in Arizona or something in Florida that was larger with a big growth market, it would have been a lot easier to push through. But we're not huge. We're not a big growth market. We're very stable, but it's a tertiary market. It's a stable tertiary market. And so getting that small balance loan in a very small market was very difficult. And so a lesson learned there is go big or go home. Go ahead and get that big loan because as backwards as it sounds, it's easier to get the big loan than the small loan.
I
Okay.
work as a broker, and I can strongly agree with that.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. I got you, Moshe. That's so true. All right. So what was the hardest part with this deal?
So there was a group of us, we were all newbies, and things got rocky. They got real rocky. Lending was very scary. We couldn't get the lending. We couldn't get our KP approved. We couldn't get a loan product. It was really, really rocky. Now, remember how I said I grew up in a family that invested in real estate? Husband too. We were used to ups and downs. Well, not everybody comes at this, like what you were saying, Aaron, not everybody comes at this with the same background. And I feel like what that translates to is various risk tolerances. And so we wound up losing the second team because there was a big fear of continuing to pay for extensions at $75,000 a piece when there was no guarantee that we were going to have a loan product. And so that was when the people on the second team were like, I just, we love you, but we can't do this. And so the second team dissolved, and it was Jason and I again with an apartment complex that was going to cost $5 million. We already had $100,000 that had gone hard, which, by the way, we'd gotten from Jason's mom. So we couldn't really lose that, right? So the second team is gone at this point. And so we have to put together a third team. And so we called in some friends. I called in my friend Frank. He's a middle school teacher from Rhode Island, or he was a middle school teacher in Rhode Island. We're good friends because we have that teacher connection. And then I pulled in some other friends, Gail McCarthy. I met her for the first time face-to-face at BEC 2020 in Keystone. And guys, she's tall. She's got to be 6 foot something. Aaron, she's probably not much shorter than you. She is a tall lady and like just exudes confidence. It just like drips from her. So pull on my friend Mike. And we were like, all right, guys, let's go. And really everything had been done because the second team was amazing. And I loved those guys. And we worked really smoothly. We had done the due diligence. Everything was done. And so the third team comes on, and really all that was left was the cap raise. Because really everything else was there. And so we get this third team in place. And at this point we had our loan product too, because the day after the second team dissolved, Jason came home from work. It was like 12 o'clock. And he's like, I can't even think, because he's like, I owe my mom $100,000. And so he's home and like, he's crying. I'm consoling him. And then I'd cry. He'd console me. We were back and forth for a while. And then he was like, okay, we're going to make a list. And so we made a list of 35 people that we felt had like the knowledge, the experience, the financial wherewithal to help us get this thing back on track. And it was call after call. Keep smiling and dialing. You're doing great, Angel. So it was like slap in the face, gut punch, slap in the face. I mean, it was like, can't you just help us? And we finally came across someone that did, and it was Agostino, and he helped us get our deal back on track. And so once we had a loan product and we were back on track, the third team comes on, and from the time we were approved until the time the loan closed was 28 days. And we had actually gotten a term sheet from Lima One, who took the loan across the finish line, but we didn't know that that was who we needed to be looking at. Agostino had that knowledge, and he was able to get us into that loan product so that we could get that deal across the finish line.
Okay, so let's talk about the capital raise. How did that go?
So we had to backfill. Frank put up a sizable amount of money to get it across the finish line. So we were backfilling him, but at the end, we fully funded in February, I think, maybe March. But by the time we fully funded and we had fully backfilled, Jason and I were right at $1 million in our first raise. And Frank is just below that because we backfilled him. So we raised more than Frank. And that's what really has to be said. So I hope he watches the recording.
Love it. Love it. So, I mean, just take us a little bit in that process because it wasn't easy.
Oh, no.
But
I mean, I'm pretty sure I called you crying.
You did. We talked about it, but I think that it's great to share with others who, oh, this is easy, man. I'm going to, man, $1 million raise. That's nothing. Why is raising money so hard?
So looking back on it, you've got friendship relationships and you have business relationships. And a lot of times we have friendship relationships and business relationships with the same people. So when we reach out to those people, we're asking for something, they don't want to tell you no. And even if all along the way they've been saying, hey, as soon as you have a deal, I'm going to invest with you. As soon as you have a deal, I'm going to invest with you. That's great and wonderful. And it's really easy to say that. But when it comes time to wire the money, a lot of those people will absolutely ghost you. And they ghost you because they don't want to tell you no, because you are their friend and you're their business person, like you're a business associate as well, or a colleague. And so I call it the follow-up loop, because you get stuck in it and you can't get out of it. But what we discovered on our team is that if we have another GP team member call the person that's in the feedback loop or the follow-up loop, they will tell the other person, I'm not going to invest in this deal, but they won't say it to your face. So they'll tell somebody else that's going to tell you, but they won't say it to your face. So that's just one little hint that I put out there. Because if you get stuck, and you will, if you get stuck in that loop, that's one way to get out of the loop and get that person off of your callback list and into the no pile. Because no's are good things, actually. As weird as that sounds.
I think that's sound advice right there. So you got your first deal. How's that gone so far as after the close? Has the real work just begun, or is it like smooth sailing now?
So this is kind of the cool part, because I really settled into what my role is on a team, and my role is the relationship side, not just with the investors, but with the vendors, with the PMCs, with the GCs, with the insurance. I get to like create relationships with everybody, even our like on-site maintenance and our on-site manager. I mean, like I've gotten to get these really great relationships with everyone. And the cool thing about it is, like, if we need to reach out to someone about like with Rhino services, I have a contact at Rhino. What is Rhino? Rhino is this amazing little piece of wonderfulness that you see places that offer no deposit. What they're likely doing, maybe not all the time, but what they're likely doing is they're pulling in a company like Rhino, where Rhino credit checks the people, it looks at them, it does all that risk analysis, and it allows them to purchase an insurance. Because why do you have to put up a deposit? Well, you have to put up a deposit in case you do something to that apartment and they got to pay for it, right? Well, what Rhino does is it supplies an insurance that if they do something to that apartment, Rhino is going to pay the owner to get it fixed. So it's kind of like a renter's insurance, but it's for the owner, not the renter. And it's different from the facility insurance because it's on the individual unit. So they're paying $8, $10, $12, maybe $15 a month for the Rhino, but they don't have to pay that security deposit because the Rhino policy, or whatever policy is like Rhino, is going to pay for any damage they do. So we learned about that, which was super cool. And because I have a contact there, it makes it easier that if we want to do a program like that, which a lot of property management companies have their own programs that can do stuff like that. But by having relationships with people that are in those areas, if we decide we want to do it, I just call up somebody I already know. And I'm like, hey, it's Angel. Can you present to our team what you and I've already talked about? And so we schedule a meeting and that person comes in and presents to the team and we make a decision. And so that's been really cool about being able to really settle into my role. And it's really, I still get a little self-conscious about it sometimes because I'll go to a place and they're like, well, what do you mean that this is your only job? Don't you help with this or help with this? Or who's doing the asset management? Who's doing this? And I'm like, that's not, that part isn't my job. I mean, I'm still asset managing because I still have the relationships with the people that we need to call in, but I may not be the person that's there watching over them, making sure they're doing what they need to be doing in those pieces. So it's a non-traditional role, but it's working out great for us.
Hey, sound good to me. I like that because, hey, if everybody has a role and you're just playing your role, why not? I mean, you know, I think that helps people out. I think too many people, I think some people want the main GP role and didn't understand how much work that is. And sometimes you just have a role that you can just feel comfortable with. Why not do it?
Yeah. Well, and I'm still on the GP team. I'm still watching how the asset is doing. I was still helping backfill. I mean, Jason does a lot of the asset management. One of the guys that we brought on is a PMP. So he is a project manager. And he really thought he was going to be able to raise capital. And so he felt like he had disappointed us. And I was like, Mike, man, it's hard. It's hard. Don't be upset. And one of the things I asked him one time was I said, look, what do people think you do? He's like, well, I'm an engineer. I'm like, that's right. And he didn't get what I was saying. But if somebody asks you what you do and it's not real estate, or it's not, like, for me, I get lucky because I'm an economist. So I can say, oh, I'm an economist if I slip up. And it doesn't matter as much because an economist knows money and should be a good investor, right? In most people's minds. So mine's not as big of a mess up. But when someone asks you what you do and you say, oh, I'm an engineer, why are they going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars with you if you're an engineer and you're operating in real estate?
Right.
So that's another little hint. You want to make sure that you get to where when people think about what you do, the first thing that hits their mind is, oh, this person's a real estate investor, or this person has duplexes, or this person has apartments, or this person has short-term rentals. But if they start seeing you as a person that's involved in those things, or if they know that's your major side hustle, because that's what worked out for Jason. My husband's an engineer, but everybody has known that his side hustle has been real estate the whole time he's been working for that company. So when it came time for him to raise funds, people saw him as a real estate investor. But I think that's probably a number one tip too, or a number two tip is make sure that people know what your side hustle is, so that when you come to them and you're asking for funds or you're asking for help, that they don't think, what the heck is this off the wall request? I mean, when did you start doing this mess, So you want to make sure that people know what you're doing, even if you're not asking them for money. You just want to make sure people know what you're doing.
Absolutely. All right. So let's move forward. I know people have a lot of questions for you about real estate. A couple more questions and I'm gonna let attendees talk to you. Okay, so what was more stressful for you, doing this deal or doing your summit? Hey man, let's roll back. What is your summit? Let's go down this road. I know you're a teacher, things like that. What is your summit? So everybody will know about it. Then everybody knows what your summit is.
Okay, so we do 2 3-day summits every year. They're on real estate investing. The very first one was 24 speakers. Now we're up to 50-ish, 50 to 55 speakers, panelists, moderators. People moderate the panels for me. So they get involved, they ask their own questions, they put their questions together, they lead the panels. And it's really cool to get all these different perspectives out there on how a panel should be run. And like Brian Briscoe has done the capital raising panel for the past 2 times now, and he loves it and he has fun with it and it's awesome. And I usually run with some similar people in the mindset piece just because it is amazing. This last one, and every single one of them gets better. But this last one, that first day, I was like taken aback. I was just like, This was the most amazing first day ever. And I don't know how they keep getting better. But see, the real question, what you should have asked, Aaron, is, was this still harder than the first summit? Because that first summit, holy night. If it were not for Peely Arusi, the first summit would not have happened, because she talked me off that ledge. Oh, she talked me off that ledge. And the second one might not have happened either if John Kasman hadn't talked me off the ledge. By the time we got to the third one, I was still frustrated. It was still hard, but I didn't have to be talked off a ledge. Fourth one was during due diligence. I didn't have bandwidth to be upset or be worried. And this last one it was really very smooth. So what was harder, the fourth or fifth summit or the deal, hands down. What was harder, the first or like the first or second summit or the deal? Ooh, that's pretty close. So it just kind of depends.
Okay. Well, what have you, going to your summits, what has been the biggest benefit for you during these summits?
So do you want the selfish reason, or do you want the reason everybody wants to hear?
The selfish.
I got both of them. Okay. Selfish reason, I get one-on-one with those people for the entire time that we're recording. So I get 45 hours one-on-one total with every speaker at my summit every single time. I get those relationships. I get those friendships. I get that. And that's selfish, and that's okay. Because I love it. I mean, it's amazing. Just imagine twice a year getting 40 to 45 hours of one-on-one training with people that are active in the field right now, people that are big players in the field right now, twice a year. So it's like keeping up with the economy, because the economy's, it moves quickly, but I'm getting a pretty good picture of it every 6 months, right? And so in total, between the podcasts and the summits, holy night, I probably have, I'm probably getting 100 hours every year, if not more, of one-on-one. And that's, if you don't do it for any other reason, do it for that benefit right there. The other thing it does for you is it gives you this look. It gives you a position. So I was talking to a guy the other week. He's getting ready to do a podcast, and he was nervous about the content and the speakers. And I said something to him, which I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but when you're starting out, I don't think people even really care what your content is. What it comes down to is you being able to say down the road, oh yeah, I got 100 episodes on my podcast. Maybe some people will go back and listen to what was at the beginning, but maybe not. So unless you've got like massive downloads and a massive following, the point of having that podcast is really to give you some credibility, so you have longevity to it. But the other thing it does for you is it gives you the knowledge, the relationship, and the ability to call those people when you're in need. We had that list of 35 people, and it wasn't just friends. Yeah, I called you Aaron, I called you crying. Because like in the past, during all this virtual stuff, like we're family. But I also called Whitney Sewell crying, and I called Megan Lamke crying. And I was calling the people that I had built relationships through the summit and the podcast and through the coaching system. And I was just calling out to people, and I wouldn't have had the ability to call out to those people if I hadn't been able to build those relationships through the podcast, the summit, and through all of those things that we were doing.
Right. All right. 2 more questions for me. You got your first deal at the end of 2021. You have your summit. How is it to have a meetup? How has that been fun? Has that been a fun process for you? And can you tell about how things have grown from the start? I'm not talking about the attendees, but for you.
Yeah, no, that's not fair. You're asking that with prior knowledge.
No. But I'm saying though, I think that a lot of people, they need to hear the humble beginnings to where you at
Right.
now. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, when somebody sees something like, let's say you go to a clubhouse or something, or come to like this meetup, you see 5 people. Dang, really? I'm gone. And as the host, you still got to continue to go on. So just tell us that scenario for you.
So I don't actually remember when we started. I think we started in like December of 21. No, December of 20 or January of 21. I don't really know when we started. I could look back and find out. It doesn't matter because those first few, it was like me, Aaron, Lawrence, Mark, and my husband, and Kay Trevor. And sometimes it was just me and my husband. Sometimes it was just me, my husband, and Aaron. And that went on for months. I mean, I see people who start these meetups up and 3-4 weeks in when they've only got, 5-6 people, they give up. Man, a following is not built overnight. A brand is not built overnight. It takes time and you just commit to it. Does it suck sometimes? 100%. Is it hard when you've been doing it for months and months and months and it's not growing and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels and it's embarrassing to get on another meetup another week and it's 8 people and you love those 8 people, but you're working your tail off and it's just those 8 people. And so Lawrence, I see you say it louder, but one of the things you told me was the quantity is nowhere near as important as that quality. And like I said, I mean, the people that have been with us this whole time, man, they are like family. Like I will throw hands for some of them. I'm only 5'2". I might not last long, but I can be your first line of defense, Aaron. You might be still taking punches over me because you're like 6'4". Maybe I can grab somebody around the waist and take them down. I don't know. But I mean, it was that quality, right? It was the quality of connection. And it was hard and it's really hard. And you just keep sticking it out. And I mean, you just got to commit to it. And regardless of how bad it sucks or whether you're embarrassed or not embarrassed, you just got to stick with it, commit to it, and don't do it because it's fun. Don't do it because you like it. Do it because you made the commitment. Because that commitment, if you don't stick to your own commitments with yourself, where do you stand?
Oh boy. Great nugget. Great nugget. One more question, Desmond. I'm opening up to you first since you raised your hand. Okay, so that's a little much lighter question. What is behind the halo? How did the halo start?
Because of you?
No, it's not start because of me. It started before me because I met you. You already had the halo.
Yeah, I had the halo. So when everything started happening, so say March 2020, January, February, March of 2020, things are getting a little hairy. Stuff is really going down come March. April, May, Zoom is kind of starting to falter. By September, things were bad, but people were still using it. And they started coming up with different things to make it fun. And I found the filters and I found a halo. And who better to wear the halo filter than Angel? And so that was what started the filter with the halo. And then Aaron started seeing it. And I would go into a meetup and I would hear halo, 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 halo. And if I didn't put it on, it would get like disruptive. So I would have to like click onto that halo or Aaron would like get disruptive. And so that was what really, I don't always remember it because it's not that I don't have to anymore. It's that I just forget. And so when I see Aaron, it reminds me, or if I see Lawrence or somebody that I know, I better turn this on before they say something. I'll get it on. But it was just a fun thing that happened for me with the filter. And it made me feel more like me. I go to things in person now and people are like, where's your halo? It's hard to recognize you without your halo. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to do like a headband with a halo. So that, I mean, I already look unprofessional. I'm in jeggings and a t-shirt everywhere I go. So I might as well add the halo and just go ahead and throw a party. But I don't know. Maybe make something that I can put on my head and then put in my pocket when I need to be professional. I don't know.
I got one I can send you. My girls used it for a Halloween thing, like a little string of like LED lights with a battery pack. Yeah, that worked.
Oh, that sounds pretty Halo-ish.
And see, the reason why we continue to get on her is all about marketing. Her name is Angel. She has the halo. It's a marketing ploy. So it's not like, okay, man, you might see all these faces, but you remember the girl with the halo on her head. And that's what I'm talking about. It's all about marketing. So I always get on Angel about, it's not about, oh, Alice halo. It's cool, but it's about marketing. So she's standing out amongst the pack. So I'm gonna open up for questions. Please raise your hand, guys. But Desmond, you are first, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you, Angel, so much for that story. I was really interested because I came in a little late. You were talking about your first deal. I didn't know if it was off market or not. And would you suggest raising capital first and raising money first?
So our story is a little bit different because we've been in the space for 3 or 4 years. I guess 4 years before we ever started raising. So people knew who we were. I'll also say that 70% of the people that invested with us on our first deal were other syndicators. And so sometimes you'll hear that those are not going to be your investors, but they need to place money too. And so you want to make sure that you are also creating relationships with those other syndicators because they're not hands off. Those are people that you can also raise funds from, and they have a heart for you when it's your first one because they know first deals are tough. They're just tough.
I hear a lot of people creating funds now to have.
So what I've heard about funds is when you think you have a network big enough to have a fund, you need about 10 times more people. So that's a fear stopper for me. I'm like, ooh, maybe not. But as far as like where we got the deal from, it was an SMS blast from a broker. And I saw it on my phone. I was like, oh, that's here in Wichita Falls. I've never called a broker before. And so I called him.
Okay.
It wasn't off market. It wasn't anything special. We just called.
Next question.
What are some of the upgrades? One more. What are some of the upgrades, renovations have you made to this property?
Okay, so one of the benefits is that it is 15 minutes from our house. So we get a lot of hail here, like a lot. You can usually get hail damage repair on your vehicle. You can get that insurance claim every year, every 2 years for sure. Well, where we are, the hail is, a big hail might be a little smaller than golf ball sized. Where the apartments are 15 minutes from my house, their big hail is probably a little bit under baseball sized. Yeah. Well, so we're North Texas, almost Oklahoma, lots of tornadoes, lots of hail. And because the apartments are a little bit outside of Wichita Falls, there isn't as much city heat. So the hail has more buildup time coming down, right? And so the first thing we want to do is put in covered parking. Because I know like for residents or for anybody, until you're actually making a good salary, what is your most expensive purchase? It's your car. And I want our residents to understand and to know that we understand that and that we want to protect their most expensive asset too. And so that's why we want to do the covered parking first. But that's a benefit of it being so close to our house. If we weren't investing here, we wouldn't have understood we wouldn't have understood the importance of taking that one on first.
Anybody else another question for her?
Well, I like what Ruben said. If people know who you are, that is capital raising. Exposure is part of it. So.
Well, that's the mastermind right there. That's the mastermind right there. So speaking
I
facts.
talk about it all the time, actually. So I'll just make this comment, that I learned from Hunter Thompson. He says a lot of people are focused on like, how do you get people from like 10% closure rate to 20% closure rate. And that should not be your focus. Your focus should be like, how do I get in front of 10,000 people? And, you know, the podcast or any platform, a meetup, a event that you run just gives you incredible notoriety, exposure, and allows you to connect with people even on one-on-one levels that you're talking about, Angel. So that is, I think, one of the things that I've learned from the show. It's just like, hey, it's not about like converting people. It's about like, how do I get in front of more people? It's like the funnel, right? Like, how do you make the big funnel bigger versus, you know, like trying to sell people?
Yeah. Well, and I'll say too, like one of the things Aaron and I were talking about is Aaron and I were talking, say before we got on, he's like, man, you're doing podcasts, you're doing this, you're doing that. So I planned that. I looked at the date of my summit. And so I started looking at different podcasts and I was scheduling them with what I hoped was enough lead time to get them published right before the summit or right after the summit. So that for about a month and a half there, all people see is me everywhere. And so it looks like I'm everywhere. Man, who is this gal? When, yeah, I did it purposefully. But you can make those same kind of moves and you can like just blow up. And even if you only blow up once a year, for a month, you are on top of the world looking like you are everywhere doing huge things, even if all you did was make sure you scheduled those podcasts right. So little tip.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's smart, very smart, especially when you have something coming up. I'll be doing that in the future as well. And I got an announcement at the end of this month. I mean, at the end of this meetup when I'm doing. Next question. Anybody got another question for Angel?
What's next?
What's next? We've got a few more deals on the table that we're looking at. We do have an off market that we're looking at here in Wichita Falls.
So a lot of it is close by you. Okay.
Wichita
so
Falls
you're-
it's not in Kansas. We're in North Texas. But we're small, like 15 minutes to get you from one side of town to the other.
Okay.
104,000 people ish. So big but small. We're a big NATO base.
Okay.
So the people in the NATO countries come here, they bring their families and they're here for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And a lot of the people that come here, they've got money. And so they're spending their money in the economy. Maybe they want to buy a house. Maybe they don't want to buy a house. There's plenty of families that do choose to stay in apartments, but they aren't counted in our population. So there's a little bit of misconception there as to what's really going on in our economy. But I would say that's probably where some of the stability comes from as well. No, we're not massive growing, but we're also not shrinking. So it's just very stable.
So in the chat, Kenyon asks, are you still teaching and how was you making that pivot?
Actually, I'm still teaching. I teach college economics. I teach at Vernon College and I teach for Wayland Baptist University. I've been teaching for Wayland for 17 years. Started teaching in the summer of 2004, and I've been teaching their senior level econ course the entire time. So that's kind of cool. And then I've taught on and off for Vernon College here. They asked me to come on for their dual credit, I guess a year or so ago now. And so I'm still doing that. But I did leave the K through 12 environment. I was in K through 12 for about 17 years also, on and off, teaching full-time, tutoring, subbing. I did a little bit of everything. And the hardest part is that I want to help my teacher friends. And my teacher friends want to complain about having very little money, but they don't actually want to do anything about it. They think they do. But when I try to offer solutions, if they don't laugh at me because they think it's crazy or it seems too out of reach for them, they just walk away and ghost me on it. So it's that was hard because I want to help them. My heart is there. And the pivot was starting the Academy Presents REI Rocks, because what do I get to do? I get to share information. I get to still be a teacher, but I'm facilitating the information share as opposed to being the person that is doing the direct information sharing. So I'm finding the speakers, I'm finding the panelists, I'm finding the people to be the teachers, but it still fills my teacher heart because I'm getting to share information. And that's really where the love falls, is getting to help people and getting to teach people and share information and experiences and knowledge with people and watching them benefit from it.
Thank you for sharing. I asked because I am presently a teacher, 6 years teaching high school, 10, 11, 12th grade science. So because I'm in the 6 to 12 setting, it's a full-time schedule, right? So I wanted to see what it was like for you, if you are still in that setting, how it is. Because now I'm new in the real estate investing field, and also working on a real estate license and daily searching for other deals, and networking here and building relationships. So the schedule is, very interesting. It's
Hard.
hard.
Well, because if you're like other teachers too, you're doing those non-paid hours where you're working from 6 a.m. to usually 10, 11 at night.
When I mean, after work, there's still work, right?
Yeah, no, and we don't get summers off. I don't care what anybody says. We don't get summers off. We still got to go to training. We're still out there, and the whole summer, what are we doing? We're looking for deals. We're looking for stuff we can buy to put in our classrooms.
Yeah,
And so it's just tough. And the hardest part really is, out of all of the people that I know are teachers, I've had 2 people that have wanted to get more information about how to do what I'm doing. And, I don't know if you'll keep teaching after you're doing some real estate deals, but the teacher you become when the paycheck no longer matters
right,
is tremendous.
right.
We
And
had replaced,
yeah,
Yeah.
I look forward to that. My goal is to pivot from the classroom and within these next 4 years, though, from teaching in the classroom to being more in the real estate space, as well as seeing what teaching looks like outside of the classroom, whether it's in real estate space, financial education, sustainability, etc.
Yeah. Well, and you're in an amazing position. I don't always push the female thing because I don't want to get myself into a situation where I'm with, for a female by females. I don't ever want to get in that position. But being a minority female, you're going to have more. I really feel like you'll be able to develop a very strong following of people that they see someone at a disadvantage starting out, still being able to get ahead. And so there's going to be a group of people that are really drawn to that. And so you're going to be amazing.
Thanks for that encouragement. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Ruben. And I'm proud of you too and what you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Cinto.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate you hosting. And Angel, thank you so much as always. I love listening to you. My question is, what are your biggest fears, both professionally and personally?
Man. So not being able to provide is a big fear. Because like when my son lost his insurance and we're 2 weeks into March and we got a $20,000 therapy bill. That was scary. I cried and I looked at my husband. I said a few choice words that started with a variety of letters. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to have to go back to work just so I can get insurance for my kid." And it really sucked because like, there's got to be a way to do this. There's lots of people doing it. There's got to be a way to do it. And so not being able to provide for my son when I had worked so hard to find the insurance that would cover him, and then losing that, it made me feel kind of like a failure. So that's a big fear, but it was just a month without. We're working on getting new insurance now, and then he'll be covered and he'll be back. And it won't be a total loss. I mean, it just, for a moment there, I was really hard on myself, and I'm hard on myself anyway. As far as personally, I have always had a problem with people that don't like me. I can sit here and talk about how it's super easy, be yourself, da 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 da. But when you're putting it all out there and you're being yourself and people don't like you, They don't like you. It's not that they don't like the front, they don't like the mask, they don't like this persona. No, they don't like you. And that kind of sucks. But at the same time, knowing that I'm not everybody's cup of tea means that I keep my circle tight and it's close and it's small. And I know I'm surrounded by people that want to be around me and that I want to be around. And so, I mean, just trying to come to terms with not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. So, but that's the fear. It's always riding with me, is that everybody's going to hate me and nobody's going to like me. And that's not the reality of the situation. But there are times, plenty of times, when that person in the back of my head is like, Angel, you're stupid. You're an idiot. Nobody laughs at your jokes. You're not funny. You're not smart. Look at you in the mirror, girl. You can't even put the fork down. I mean, I go through all of those things. And those are big fears, because my fear is that those things are going to be true. And I don't want them to be true. So that's my personal fear.
Do you subscribe to well, 2 points. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That takes a lot of courage. Do you feel that is because it's a little bit of projection, like they have doubted themselves? And the other thing is, yeah, let's start with there. Do you feel like it's projection?
Man, there are other times when I look at people and I see how beautiful they are and how confident they are and how sure they are of themselves, and just how dang smart they are. Like, they can talk about underwriting and they can talk about capital raising, and they can talk about all these asset management things and all these things that I'm not good at. And I know I'm not good. They're amazing at it. So I don't know that it's any kind of a projection, other than I see my own like delinquencies in those areas, I guess. Oh no, I don't ever want to be good at underwriting. I actually never want to be good at underwriting. But just because I don't ever want to be good at it doesn't mean I don't look at people who can do it and think, man, they're so much smarter than me. And I think it's hard to not do that. But the name of the game isn't always smarts. The name of the game is, how do you make people feel? How do people feel around you? Do they feel wanted? Do they feel like they can help you and that you're going to be accepting of their help? Are they trying to help you, or are they trying to use you to get higher? I don't know. I rely on my inner compass a lot. It's not always right, but I rely on it a lot to try and make sure that I'm not somebody's stepping stone. And that on the flip side of that I'm not doing that either. Because I think sometimes somebody likes you so much that you don't even realize that you're using all the help that they're giving you for your own personal benefit. And so you really have to watch, and you really have to be careful that you're not allowing somebody's genuine love of you and desire to help you, that you're not eking over into kind of an unethical spot of, am I taking advantage of that? Because that's not what you want to do. You want to make sure that you can sleep well at night and that you're really helping others too. Yeah, reciprocity is a big deal.
That's amazing. And cap off on that. Anytime I see you, you always make me feel welcome. So thank you.
Oh, that makes me happy.
All right, Dawn. Good to see you on here, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Any other questions for Angel? This has been awesome, and really enjoy this. A lot of great nuggets, Angel. A lot of great nuggets. Anybody else want to have a question for Angel? Okay, so I guess not. So I have an announcement to
Did
make.
I have a question?
Okay, go ahead, please.
But my question would be for Angel about like finding your niche. How did you go about finding, what sector of real estate you wanted to focus in? For example, I mean, commercial, residential, short-term rentals, etc. Trailer parks, campgrounds.
Mhm.
There's so many. How did you go about figuring out that you wanted to? I believe you're in the residential space, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
we started in residential. We've been in residential for 2 decades, and
Wow.
residential is, well, I'm 45, my husband's 42. We bought our first house in 2003. But he and I both grew up in families that invested in real estate.
Okay.
So we've had this around us our whole lives. And where do most people get their start? Most people get their start in residential. So like I watched my grandparents, they had single family homes, they had a quadplex, and they had a small trailer park. Jason's family had 60, 70 units of residential multifamily. They own like a whole street of duplexes, triplexes, and quads. So that was our background, was residential. And really the reason why we got into multifamily was because of the scalability of it. Because with our son's condition, we have pretty big medical bills, and they're only going to get bigger as time progresses. So we needed to be able to scale in such a way that we wouldn't have to worry as much about his medical expenses, because we would just be able to get them covered. Whether it was with insurance or self-pay, it wouldn't have been such a sucker punch as it was when we lost his insurance at the end of February and had to put him back in the public school while we try and get his insurance figured out, because he has the autism nobody talks about. He was coming home with new bumps, bruises, scabs. It honestly, one day it looked like somebody grabbed his wrist, the way the bruising was. And when I talked to the school, I'm like, he's hard. I know he's hard. They're like, well, if we could just get an FBA, if we could just get a BIP, which is a functional behavior analysis, and then a behavioral intervention protocol system. But those things take time. And there's no guarantee that what works today is going to work with him tomorrow. So he would have had all of these programs, and it might have ultimately meant nothing. But they were, CYA, covering their bases, doing what they needed to do. And so I don't want to go back to that situation, because it's hard on us. It's hard on my son. And we don't ever want to wind up in the situation again where we can't just prepay $20,000, $30,000 so that he gets to stay in ABA until we get the insurance stuff figured out. Because I don't ever want to be back in this position.
Oh, thank you, Angel.
Mhm.
Thanks for your vulnerability.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nobody's going through something for the first time ever or all alone. There is somebody out there somewhere that has gone through the same stuff you're going through. And if you don't talk about it, nobody's ever going to be able to hear your story and be able to help you. So whether, even if it sucks to tell the world what's going on, tell the world what's going on, because you need help. And what better way to find the help than for someone to reach out to you and say, hey, I've already been there. Let me help you.
I have a side question for you. I don't know if it's called a HSA. Is that what it's called? HSA for your setting up your own health insurance account?
But you're thinking about accelerating your progress, right? You want to make progress.
I think that's what. I think that's what it's called, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah. So you've got the HSA is a health savings account, and we have an HSA, but it probably only has like 10,000 in it at most.
Okay.
And the shock on the other end of the phone when we were like, can we just prepay? They're like, what? I was like, how much do we owe? 20,000? Like, let us just prepay it. And she was like, it's 20,000 for the first 14 days. I was like, wow.
Wow.
Forgive me.
Wow.
I didn't know we were going to come up with $20,000. Okay. But I was just trying to get a yes out of somebody. Like, tell me there's an answer here that is positive, other than, oh, I hope you get your insurance figured out.
Wow. Well, you're on the solution path. You're on the solution path. And yeah. And just as you say, with this, you'll be able to help somebody else.
Yeah.
you know, and this is a teachable moment that can be added to your, you know, curriculum development as well.
Well, and you know, I believe everything happens for a reason.
yeah,
And I don't think that we would have learned the persistence
Mhm.
if we hadn't had to deal with all the problems that insurance and medical has presented with Anson.
Yeah.
Because I was always getting no's. I'd call insurance. Hey, are y'all going to cover this? No. Call back. Are y'all going to cover this? No. Are y'all going to cover this? No. What do we have to do for you to cover this?
Mm.
Oh, I can't share that with you. So then I find out there's an answer. And so then it's just calling back. So how do we have to do this? How does this have to be coded? What does this have to say? And it just changed it. So then it was a question of, okay, this has to be coded how? And then I'd call the doctor and say, okay, this is what I just found out. This is how it needs to be coded.
Mm.
And it's like semantics.
The loophole.
It's
Yep.
the same stuff. You just
Yep.
code it with a different set of numbers.
Yep. I wholesomely agree and understand what you mean. Yeah.
It's insane. The most vulnerable in our society are treated this way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, but it always takes me back to the time Jason told me I was crying. We're old school. Yeah, we're the end of the Williams family name. We have the last boy with the Williams name, and he shouldn't have kids. We don't know if he'll ever have the mental capacity to have children. So we're it. And I was crying because I'm like, man, Jason, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a boy. You know, I gave you a boy, but I didn't give you a boy that can carry the family name. And other than him laughing and saying, you know, our girls are so independent, they're probably gonna make their husbands take our name. But the other thing he said was, you know, what if it wasn't Anson that was given to us, but us that were given to Anson?
Mm.
And I will never forget that evening because it changed the way I looked at it.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a very profound statement. I don't even think he understood how profound it was for me and what an effect it was going to have on me. But I mean, that was years ago. I mean, that was probably a decade ago at this point. And I still remember how those words made me feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's humbling too, you know, going 360 back to where you were speaking about being self-aware as to when people are helping us, that we're not just taking selfishly, but we're also giving back. When we hold the perspective of not the why is somebody in my life, but also the why am I in their lives, right? Um, then that just changes everything, right? It changes how we show up, how we see things. So yeah.
And it's that teacher heart, right?
Yeah.
Because even when your life is real messed up, you can't come to school and put that on your kids.
No.
And they pick up on it.
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to just having the teacher heart and wanting to help, just wanting to help people.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Angel. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And blessings to you in this insurance solution, and looking forward to hear how it becomes a, you know, a coaching moment for your folks. Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
It's going to be another one of those do not take no for an answer.
We all no, seriously, we all need it, especially when you're pivoting into the self-employment phase, right? The B or the I quadrant, right? Is that what we say it? Then you definitely need to have an insurance strategy for yourself.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, the one thing I said to my husband was, I was like, look, this is a life event. You need to get all of us back on your insurance.
Yeah.
And we knew that he was transitioning from W-2 to 1099. But my thoughts were, is even if in the worst of situations, we don't have ABA, but we got COBRA for a year and a half. And so we were able to get everybody on his insurance. Looks like we're also going to be able to pick up this other insurance, but we found out his last day as a W-2 is June 30th. So if the fear wasn't real before then, it is now. I mean, he gets a package and whatever, but no more job after June 30th. We have to fend for ourselves at that point. And that's some real fear too.
But you're putting strategies in place. So yeah.
We absolutely are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's good. Yeah. Thank you, Angel.
Oh, thank you for being here. And thank you for being a fellow teacher.
Oh,
and for not like biting my head off when I was like, teachers want to cry, they want to whine, but they don't want to do anything about it. And you're like, so I'm here
Oh.
doing something about it.
Exactly. But it's funny because the kids also recognize that, because I told them when I closed on my property, I came in and I said, guess what, folks? I just bought my, first multifamily. And they're like, Miss, that's the first of many. They're cheering me on. And then they start to talk about other teachers that just look like they're here just for the job they're going to spend forever and a century, there, while they're seeing that I'm working and doing other things to pivot. So the kids recognize that as well. Those who are doing things versus those who are just like stuck in the cycle of, oh, this is my job for 25 years and that's it.
Well, and your students are going to support your dreams, because like my students knew I was getting a luxury watch. And when I got it, I took it off and I let some of them put it on, hold it. And this one kid tried to take off for the door. I'm like, what you going to do? You going to try and fence it around here? Nobody's going to buy that. I'm the only one in town with one. And he was like, Miss, I'm just playing. But it was really cool to have my kids come around me and be like, Miss, you deserve this.
Yeah.
You deserve that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, because that's like, those are the things that hit you in the heart, because they see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they see that you're looking and you're trying for a better life. And because if anyone needs to hear that your current situation is not your final destination, it is those students.
Yep. The impact, right? That's going to have on them. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's why I share with them too, being transparent, letting them know that we're also bouncing back and being resilient, and that life is not perfect because we are adults. Adulting is not easy, and being transparent about that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, I'm a teacher doing something about it.
Hey, there's not many of us, but there are lots of us in the multifamily space. Julie Hawley, teacher. Frank Pedalano, teacher. Kristen Gerst, teacher. The insurance guy, Jeremy Goodrich, teacher. The Wicks, Rachel and her husband, both of them are teachers or were teachers. There are a lot of us out there.
I'm gonna look up some of those names. Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
And I can think of more when I'm actually thinking about it instead of just trying to come up with who's on the top of my head.
Awesome.
Oh, we're going to end this. Doesn't mean everybody has to go. We're going to end this the recording. Just want to say thank you, Angel, for a great meetup. And like I said, you dropped so many gems. I just love it. And thank you, she was saying that, thank you for being vulnerable and just sharing with us. And I think that's really going to impact a lot of people by hearing this. So before I end this, my announcement is that we are starting something called a Veteran Transition Speaker Series, where speakers are going to talk about things or ways for veterans when they transit out of the military. Is a big boy with veterans, veterans have a hard time transiting out of the military for various reasons, or not using the benefits. So in anticipation of this, we're going to have a mini speaker series every month at the last Thursday every month. So this month, I'm gonna have a gentleman talk about government contracts. Next month, we'll have somebody talking about being a CPA, finances. They're both former veterans. And we're gonna do this into the grand opening of the Veterans Transition Speaker Series. So I will provide more information as I go along with it, but just stay tuned, everyone. Thank you, Angel, once again. Next week, Amy Tiemann will be our guest speaker. So from one strong woman to another strong woman. So I'm very, very excited to have Amy as a guest speaker. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you.